Okay, looks like we're recording, and I'm really excited to have on the program right now Calvin Tasker. Calvin, welcome to the program. Let me just do you a little quick introduction. I know Calvin through Mel and Steve and Chris Hines and all these great activists out in the UK. And Calvin is also a great animal rights photographer and kind of do everything kind of activist. I've seen you pop up in all these videos that have made a real splash. So it's really exciting to have you here.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just say right up front, if you're just listening to this as an audio podcast, we're going to be looking at some of Calvin's photography, and we'll do that towards the later end. But if you're listening to this as an audio podcast, you can go on to my YouTube, which is the same title. It's just my name, Jeremy Loeb. So you can find that at my YouTube channel and take a look at the photography. Because yeah, Calvin, you take some really provocative photographs, and in fact, I know some of the ones that we're going to look at are they can be pretty upsetting, and it kind of speaks to the kind of work that you're doing. You're doing a lot of deep investigations and that sort of thing. In fact, we were going to do an interview a couple weeks ago, and you were doing an investigation at that time. Maybe we can start there, and maybe you can tell me a little bit about what was going on then, if you're able to talk about it.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so I went to a dairy farm. This is a zero grazing dairy farm. I went with Plank Geezer, who I know you've had on before.
Mhm.
He lives not too far away from me, and we were looking. Actually, my wife and me were looking for a nursery for a toddler, just starting nursery, and we'd heard about this good one near to us, only 10 minutes down the road. And she got there. I couldn't make the viewing, but she got there and she texted me and she was like, "It's on a dairy farm, this nursery." And she was like, instantly, no. And I was like, what the hell? What is a nursery doing on a dairy farm for a start? And she said, I think it's part of the owner who owns the house, owns the nursery, owns the farm. And I said, what does it look like? And she said, it looks horrible. Like they're all inside. This was a summer's day. She said, they're filthy. And I said, okay, let's go investigate because I've not investigated a dairy farm. When you go to dairy farms, I've been to them before, and even though we are against, the exploitation of cows for dairy, when someone isn't a vegan, they look at cows, often outside in the fields and things like that, and they think that it's all okay. So you need to show them the reality that they're not, you know, always grazing outside and from a welfare point of view. I mean, I'm not a welfarist, I'm an abolitionist, but your dairy might come from one of these zero grazing dairy farms. Me and Plangiza went one night. We had to be quite careful because there's only two of us. Normally, you have like a couple of lookouts, but it was only a small place, so we were able to get in straight from the road. Um, Hopped a fence, went inside, and we couldn't believe what we saw there. It was literally all concrete, not a blade of grass in sight. There was just filth everywhere. There were sit they could only sit in there in like mud and in their excrement. And yeah, it was horrible. They had separated the calves as they do. They're all in another section. Loads of them actually all in a real tiny pen, all together. So we went in, we filmed it all, and we had to walk around the site. We tried to see if there was anywhere where they would actually let them into a nearby field, but there was nowhere. So we documented it, got the job done. We cut it slightly short because we thought we heard someone, and we never know how farmers are going to react in these situations. Uh, if you want to go to any of these farms with anyone, it's Plank Geezer because he's he's a ballsy guy. He doesn't easily get turned away from stuff. He goes in the middle of the day into these farms. So,
He does.
but yeah, yeah, that's his thing, which is really, I love his tenacity. So, but yeah, we weren't sure. It's the middle of the night. They could react in a bad way. So we got everything that we did and we went out, and that's on. It's on our Instagrams now. So if you want to check that out, and we did put the message in there that even if they were out in the field, chowing down on grass, they're still being exploited, and it's something that we're against. So
Yeah, I've only known about Plant Geezer for a little while now. Have had him on the program because I was so impressed with how bold he is. Like you said, he just goes into these places in the middle of the day. So have you been working with Plant Geezer for a while? And yeah, like you said, he would be like one of the best people you would want to have around because you just feel like totally at ease. When other people might be freaking out about something, and he's just like completely calm.
yeah, we actually met at my very first protest. So we were protesting outside of a slaughterhouse, and it was near where he lived. And he just came. I was on my own, and he just came up, and started chatting to me, and yeah, we got to know each other. And then it was at our second protest. We went to Pilgrim's Pride headquarters. Joey Carbstrong had arranged these protests, and I we couldn't get into the building. They locked the front door, and there was a lot of us there. And I was like, "We've come all this way. Like, we've got to get in the building." That was the whole point. And we were sort of trapped in this little tiny foyer with like a door between a door. So I did a little circle of the building and saw this open window. So I jumped in, walked straight through the building, and let everyone in. And yeah, and then Plangeezer rocks up and he's like, "Well, how'd you get in?" I told him. He was like, "Right, I'm going in." And he jumps through the same window, and as I walk around, take some photos and stuff. Like, he is, yeah, probably one of the ballsiest people I know. So yeah, if you ever want to go undercover or even in the middle of the day, if you just want to walk onto a farm, go with him because you'll feel confident, and yeah, you won't be afraid of any farmer bullies that try and scare you off their land. So, and in the UK,
Yeah.
it's actually perfectly legal to trespass. It's a civil issue, which we're quite fortunate for. A lot of other places it's illegal. It's like, I know in the US it's illegal. I'm not sure about other places, but yeah, it's perfectly legal here. It's just like I say, it's a civil issue.
Gotcha, gotcha. Well, it sounds like you're about as bold as Jake is, if not more so. Like you said, you went and opened that window. So it sounds like you feel quite a bit of comfort when you're doing these things too. Is that fair to say, or do you feel like the butterflies when you're doing undercover stuff?
Yeah, I think if it's a protest, then I'll just feel yeah, confident to do it. I went with Mel and Steve to one, and they just were encouraging people to get on the megaphone and shout some stuff, and so I did that, and um, was filled with confidence from then on to raise my voice, shout some stuff, and in those moments, a lot of people, the emotions are high. I just feel a lot of rage for when I see the imagery of people have on their banners and things, and I get so angry at what people are doing. I get I do get the butterflies before we go into a farm, um, but that soon just turns to, again, this sort of anger at what people are doing to animals, and I just let that sort of burn inside me. And when I get home, I'm the same. When I'm editing the footage, it fires me up to keep going. I think my goal is, when I put all this footage online, and I almost hope that people recognize that it's their farm, because I want the animal abusers to, and the people that are exploiting these animals for profit, I want them to see that people have been there and have a sense of fear that they try and install in the people that might be protesting or whatever. They try and install this fear in us, and you see it in the comments on Facebook. But I want them to be afraid that they're going to be exposed. So that's always been my angle, is yeah, just to expose them. But
Yeah.
the first time I went undercover, we were shooting a movie called Akin for Speciesism and Animal Justice Project. It was like a collaboration. I didn't know what to expect, and we worked with a real professional team who, shout out to them. They do this full time. This their job. They really made us feel comfortable going in. They were our lookouts for like hours while we were in there. And the way they did, I learned a lot from them on how to do undercover work. And I didn't know what to feel as we went in. I had the butterflies going in, and then it was just this pure shock when you walk into one of those places for the first time. This was a um, pig farm, and there was it was just pure. It was just a scene of pure horror, dystopian. I couldn't believe that this was now that this was happening, and there was I was we were with four others, and you know everyone was sort of really upset, and one of us broke down, really sort of sobbing, and I was just sort of in shock. But then I realised we've got limited time. We're there to do a job, and that fire was instantly got me. And I was like, right, guys, we've got to do this. We're here to film. Let's get this job done. Let's expose them. Let's show everyone what's really going on, and sort of rallied them together, and which they were quite thankful for because we were running. Time was ticking, and so that's always been. It fires me up and just makes me keep going. Really.
How did you come to do that? Like, were you selected for that job? Like, were people looking for volunteers to go in? And I guess even going back before that, it seems like you seem like an old hand at this thing. Like, it seems like you've done a number of investigations at this point. But what got you started doing that, and what got you realizing that photography would be a good use of your skills?
So I'm a wedding photographer. That's one of my jobs. And when me and my wife went vegan. We watched. Long story short, we watched Okja, which is
Mm,
a Hollywood film, fictional film. It really, represented what's going on in the meat industry, and we decided then and there to give up meat. She turned to me and said, "I'm never eating meat again." So we went vegetarian, eventually went vegan, which I think is a lot of people's story. And then we were vegan for a couple of years, and then we went to vegan camp out, having a good time. And Tash Peterson spoke, and her speech was just so powerful at making you realize like we can do more. That it's not enough to just be vegan. For some people, is and that's fine. But for me, it wasn't. I needed to do more, and I thought, what can I do? What can I do well? And I was a wedding photographer, so I decided to start taking photos of activists and do it in the same way that I would do a wedding, similar style, um, almost like romanticize people's passion for animal rights. And
mm,
I started doing that and I've been doing that ever since. And I still love to do that. I think the very first one I did was it was speciesism, WTF, with Stephanie Lane. You should get her on, or Susan.
mm.
She doesn't like talking on camera, but she is amazing.
Oh yeah.
So she was
Uh,
creating these installations that were of people in the place of animals, and someone had seen my photography and who I'd met, and they were like, "Come down, take some photos." And then through doing that, I met Steph, and her her installations and my photography really merge well together. They really complement each other, and it was from there. Steph really wanted to do an undercover video where we go in, and she wanted to create something that wasn't just your normal undercover video, and documenting it in a more artistic way, something that hasn't been done before. So she was the director on the shoot, and she was like, will you come in and film it? Use your sort of eye, take some photos while we're there. And yeah, so it was me, her, Claire from Animal Justice Project, and Jamie Logan, who was coming over from the US and who's amazing, absolutely
mm.
incredible activist, always an inspiration. So that was the team that went in, and then we had the investigators who were lookouts, and then we just set to make this film, and we looked around, and we're like, how can we shoot this differently? And yeah, we definitely want to go back and do another one and make it sort of even more artistic and just something different. I think because people, it's another audience that might not everyone wants to just watch an undercover video, as powerful as they are. They might gravitate towards something a bit more artistic. So that's why we did that.
That's incredible. Well, a couple of things about your story are interesting. So you're like the second person that I've heard that went, sort of down this path because of Okja, um, which is pretty cool because I think a lot of people don't even know about that movie. I watched it, after the fact because I had heard someone say they went vegan after watching Okja, so I watched it. And yeah, like you said, it's this fictional film. I think it's on Netflix. Anybody can watch it on Netflix if you have an account. And so yeah, that's interesting. And then also Tash, because Tash gets a lot of criticism, uh, even from vegans about her methods and everything. But it's cool to hear that someone, has, like been so inspired by Tash Peterson's words that they, became an activist basically from that. So I think that says a lot about Tash's character and the power of her activism and her words. I've always been a big fan of Tash. I like how confrontational she is. Um, so yeah, that's really cool. Maybe, and you were talking about Jamie Logan and sort of these, sort of artistic style photographs. Maybe we should start looking at some of them because you've sent me 6 photos that we're going to look at, and I know at least 2 of them were these sort of art installations. So
Yeah,
let's go through them in order right quick. Um, and I still want to talk more about, like uh, some of the investigations that you've done. Particularly, I want to talk about because I've had the whole crew of Colin's story, where you guys took Colin
yeah.
Pink-Hines, Chris Hines' brother, onto a farm. So we'll talk about that. But let's space in some of these photos as well, and maybe some of the Joey Carbstrong stuff too. But let's take a look at this one first here.
So yeah, so this is one of my favorite images I've ever taken. This is my wife in the middle, um, pregnant with our son Ziggy, and I just so this is a speciesism installation. So this obviously is a reflection of the dairy industry. Um, when I did my very first installation, photographing speciesism, it was actually Tash was there. I didn't know she was going to be there. And it was a real powerful one. And then Ash said, "Oh, I wish I could have been there as a pregnant woman, and how powerful would that be, considering that's what the whole industry um, is based on." And we met Steph at a vegan like sort of event, and Ash went up to her and said, "Let's do it. Like, can we do one where I'm pregnant?" And Steph was like 100%. How incredible that would that be? And we went to the Liverpool docks. This was about 3 weeks before she was due, middle of winter. Um, and yeah, she stood on Liverpool docks with 2 other amazing activists, Raina and Antonio were there. And yeah, just stood there for a while. We planned it really well, so we took regular breaks. They had hand warmers in pretty much everywhere where they could put them. And it was just I was so proud of her to do that, to put her body on the line. We knew there'd be a sort of backlash of, oh, what a bad mother, her baby and stuff. But we researched it well. We read stories about people in colder climates that would actually leave their babies on the porch in the cold, so they will climatize if they're in colder weather and things like that. And then we actually found out that inside Ash's body would still be really warm. It wouldn't drop for Ziggy. So we were ready for a bit of backlash, and and some people were quite rude as they passed, but photos speak for themselves. It was really incredible to see, and it moved a lot of people when they made the connection. A couple of people, some people thought it was real, which I thought was odd. When
Hmm.
I asked, what do you think's going on? And they were like, I'm not sure. And we were like, well, we're actually exploiting these women with, taking their milk. Because one thing of the installation is, I think you can see it on the floor in the background, there is milk that, I think it's oat milk, that we serve as human milk,
Hmm.
humane milk. And we were asking people if they want to try it. And it was quite funny how many people are like disgusted by that idea, even though we were raised on that. And we said, they were like, "Oh, is she pregnant?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, we're gonna, if she has the baby and it's male, we'll just kill them. But if female will just raise them and do this. And they were horrified and they couldn't believe it. And, we had threats to call the police on us. And, eventually I had to say, like, this is just an art installation. This is a reflection of the dairy industry. And, she
Yeah.
calmed down and she understood what we were saying. But yeah, we're hopefully we're going to do another one this October with Ash Pregnant. There's going to be a march with as many milked women, they're called, as we can. So yeah, if anyone wants to get involved in that, it's in October. Go check out Speciesism WTF. And get
Wow.
involved, because a lot of the women that get involved in this, they say how sort of liberating but how much power they feel as a woman, being able to do this for the animals. And like, it's their bodies they're putting on the line. And it
Yeah.
just looks, I just think it's so, from a feminist point of view, it's really powerful. But yeah,
Yeah.
it just perfectly represents the dairy industry, I think.
Yeah, a really, really bold move by your wife to do that and put herself out there like that. And yeah, I can see why this would be, obviously it's your wife, it's your child. Um, eh, how did that feel to you when people were, like you said, you were ready for some backlash, but I assume that was probably, with this personal touch and everything. Um, Did that add layers to it? Did you feel anger at the backlash, or were you just like, "No, it's like we I understand it."
I understood that it was going to happen. Ash is the kind of person that she won't read online comments. She'll ignore them. And I'm the
Yeah.
kind of person to read them. And, if there is anyone, if some of people are really disgusting, normally men are really quite vile in the comments. So I'll ignore those. Or if they're really bad, just report them. But if there's someone that's just like, that's really harmful for the baby, then I'll just educate them. I'll be like, that's my wife. This is our child, blah, blah, blah. We've done others since with Ziggy, and we did a Peter demo where they were inside a tank, not filled with water, but the idea was they were dressed as orcas. And there was more backlash for that because people were like, "Oh, you shouldn't, a baby shouldn't be in that tank." And they went viral. There was like 2 million people viewed that video, and it was
Oh,
interesting because we were like, "Well, that's the whole concept. That's the whole point. We're glad that you got it. Like, there shouldn't be, babies in these tanks."
right.
And I had to say to a few people, "Look, he was in there for like 5 minutes. We took breaks. He was playing with his mom. He was fine." Um, but I understand when there's backlash. But yeah, I just talk to them and say, this is my child, and explain why we do it with him. And why we've always done activism with him since he's been born. So
Yeah.
we want him to be raised surrounded by people that are using their voice, their bodies, that are shouting for the animals, that so he understands what real compassion for animal rights is, that he knows that we
Mhm.
shouldn't exploit animals. And I think the best way to do that is surrounded by activists that really understand what it means to, I guess, be an animal lover. He,
Yeah.
like all children, he loves animals, learns all the names of them. But unlike other children, we won't then serve them on a plate to him. Won't buy leather shoes and all that stuff. So.
Most of the activists that I know aren't parents. So how has being a parent changed your activism?
Um, I think it's it's still very much the same. I think it's made us be. We have to use our time differently. So we
Mhm.
can't. We understand now we can't go to everything, but we go to as much as we can, and we take him to what we can. We have, we. What's really good actually is that we have um, real good support network around us. We have, my mom's vegan, so she comes to a lot of the marches or our talks with us, and she'll look after Ziggy while we're, if we're asked to talk, or if we're doing speciesism. But we've actually had some friends that aren't vegan that will come to these things and watch Ziggy. And it's, we don't have many non-vegan friends. We live in a world where you lose a lot when you become activists. But those that
Mhm.
have stuck around and support what we do, um, they will come and they'll watch us do it, and they support us doing our activism. So yeah, it's changed in the way that we have to plan a bit better. Um,
Mm.
but in terms of protests, we still go to the same amount. We take him with us. Um, I probably Ash is desperate to do some undercover work. She hasn't had the opportunity yet. She's pregnant with our second child, so as soon as
Mm.
we've sort of settled down, we'll probably take turns in going out, or maybe go out together. But not it hasn't changed a whole lot. We raised him with the idea that we want him involved in our world of
Mhm.
activism, and to be surrounded by activists. So it hasn't changed a whole lot. And I'll encourage
Well,
actually anyone who's wants to become active and their parents and they think that they won't have time, things like that. Just take them to what they can, so they can be surrounded by it.
yeah. Well, that will be that must be a pretty awesome experience. I know you haven't had it yet, but you and your wife doing undercover work together, which kind of leads me to maybe we can talk about the investigation work that you did with Mel and Steve and Chris and Colin. Um, I mean, Mel and Steve are a couple; they're doing it together, and it seems like this little group that you have of people who you seem to be all really good friends, people who you trust each other really well. It sounds just like such a dream scenario, honestly, because you've got like some it seemingly. I mean, I don't know you guys that well, but I've known you through online and the support. It just seems like such a good crew. And what a like a it's like a universe coming together kind of things, to have all these great people that you can do investigations with and people that you trust. Yeah, I don't even know what my question is on that, but maybe just tell me a little bit about from your perspective how investigations have gone with Mel and Steve. I know that was like one of their first, like when you guys went onto a pig farm with Chris, and I know Chris is an old hand at investigations. I guess maybe my question could be, like how instrumental has Chris Hines been to all of this? Because I know he's been doing investigations for a long time.
Yeah, so I mean, I met Chris again at a protest. I think it was funny because Susan from Speciesism turned around to me one day. I think it was like my fourth or fifth protest. She was like, "You're everywhere right now. Like, who are you? What's your name? I'm seeing all your photos." And there was, yeah, when I decided to get active, I literally went to everything I could. I was fortunate to have a job where, I did my own schedule, and I was just like, right, I'm going to go to everything. So, I started with Joey's Pignorant campaign, and I went to pretty much everyone that I could, and took these photos, and people were like, I can't, your photos are so different. And they were really like happy that I captured, them doing protest. And yeah, through that, I met so many people, and then just became friends with some. Chris, Mel, and Steve, especially, me and Ash really gravitate towards them. We have, so much in common in terms of our humor, the things we like to do. We've been to some karaoke parties together, and um,
Nice.
we just get on so well with them. So, Mel and Steve, we we all love Married at First Sight. So, a bit of trash TV, and we sometimes they live quite far away from us, but we get on FaceTime and we watch that together.
Oh, nice,
Um,
nice.
so yeah, so shout out to them. So yeah, and then the pig farm that we went to, Chris was like, "Are you around? Like, do you want to?" I'd done a Kin the movie by that point, and he is, one of the best people to go undercover with. He knows exactly what to do and where to go, how to find these places.
Hmm.
Um, Absolutely incredible activist and with so much knowledge. And yeah, we went in together. It was the first time I met Colin. It was just before we went, and I thought, what an incredible thing to have a non-vegan come in with us. I wish we could take every non-vegan
Hmm.
into one of these places with us, and it's so incredible to see his journey to veganism. And it was really emotional to watch him see see it and the emotion of just breaking down, and it really cut him deep. I remember when I first went on a farm, it was about 3 days later, and I broke down. I think I just finished editing the photos, and it just kind of this weight hit me of what I've seen, and I broke down in tears, and it was in the middle of the day, and I texted Ash, and I was like, I'm really upset. Just finished editing, and you just kind of it hits you what you've witnessed, and then it was about the same for Colin. I sort of expected it, and he sent us this video, and he was the exact same. He sort of really broken down and realized what he'd seen, and he had time to process it. And we're in a little group together, WhatsApp group, and we really encourage each other. And it was nice to be there on his journey. We did the farm together, the slaughterhouse together, and then finally we did a podcast where we just spoke about everything that had happened. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it was really incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said, his transformation, I mean, obviously, it seemed like when it started out that he kinda knew where it was leading. And he had this like almost like I described to him, it looked like he was like sucking on a lemon. He was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it. Let's do it." And and now he's become he's an activist now. I see him online, posting you know, kind of stuff I would see Chris post before. So it's really cool that he's, gotten so full into it. And yeah, like you said, it would be great if we could take all non-vegans onto a pig farm or something and show them, and they would have a similar fire lit under them as well. And then also this so the Pignorant campaign that Joey Carbstrong kicked off with his film Pignorant in the gas chambers. Sounds like that maybe that's where you met Plant Geezer, I guess, for the first time was probably the gas chambers. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was outside a slaughterhouse, which has since shut down, which is good.
Yeah.
That's where I met Plank Geezer for the first time, and then I went to each of Joey's sort of protests. And there's one photo actually, I don't know whether you want to get it up. I think it might even be the second one,
Yeah,
which is
let me do it.
where, yeah. So this was at we went to the RSPCA. So this one, we went to the RSPCA Assured building, and we did a protest outside there trying to get RSPCA to drop it. So this photo is kind of what I do in weddings. It's very popular at the moment, like this blurred effect. Often you
Yeah.
have the bride and the groom holding hands, and I get them to run and create this sort of blurred effect. And I wanted to capture, Joey was pacing back and forth, yelling on this megaphone. And then, everyone, this like army of people behind him, you can only see a few of them, but this spreads really wide, and, stood there with the signs. And I really wanted to get that sort of idea of Joey, go back and forth, and this sort of blurred person,
Mm.
with his team of people behind him, and actually be able to read the signs. So yeah, this is an example of when I go to weddings, and I just literally transferred that skill into capturing activists. So yeah, I met so many people on this campaign, and that I still know today, that I'm friends with, and yeah, it really brought a lot of people together. And from here, I think because of the photos, and I got to know people really well and was chatting to a lot of them, which is when why Joey said, let's get a team together to go to this gas chamber. Amelia's in the background there, who was one of them. So yeah, so that's that photo. But
That's
yeah, it
awesome.
was short. Yeah, it was shortly after that. I think it was maybe like a month, maybe not even a month after that, we got this message, and it was like, we're gonna do something. Will you come and meet us? So we all got together, and it was, we're gonna go and sit on top of a gas chamber, live stream from the gas chamber. Um, there was, Plank Geezer was there, Amelia was there, Amelia's partner, Carl. We had Doug, who's such a seasoned
Mm.
activist, who's been doing it for a long, long time, and Joey. So that was the team on top of the gas chamber. And yeah, it was, it was really something, it was a real experience that I'll never forget. Um, I hadn't even been inside a farm by that point. So, straight to the slaughterhouse was, something. It was a real horror show. I
Yeah.
remember when we were looking for how we were going to get inside to the gas chamber, and me and Joey sort of at the front, and we walked around this corner, and we both slipped, and we looked down, and there's just this sea of blood,
Oh man.
so much blood, and we had to warn everyone, like, be careful, there's blood, and we sort of walked another way, and as we went around another corner, we all sort of slipping and treading on stuff. We looked down, there's just body parts everywhere, like hooves and, unrecognizable insides, and it was just an absolute horror show. Outside, and and then we got inside, and we could see the pigs all ready to go into this gas chamber. We quickly got on top, and the smell was just smell of gas and death. You can hear the pigs screaming even before they're inside. Just tightly packed together, and they would have been inside the lairage all night, just waiting. And they'll be able to smell the gas and wonder what that is. And we were on site. We were on top for several hours, and the entire the actual gas chamber itself, is just covered in pig feces. And Joey told us it's as they're going around, they'll just shit themselves basically out of fear, and because they're wrestling to get out, it would just splatter everywhere. So we just stood on top the whole, for a few hours we were there, just covered in it, and it was just pure horror. And when we were inside, the police came pretty quickly, and there was one, I'll never forget, one police officer. She started crying. She was
Wow.
inside. It was so loud, just the industrial sound. There was like a mist in the air from the gas chamber. And the heat, and she was just broken down, and I just shouted down to her, "This is horrible, isn't it? Like, why do you think we're up here?" And yeah, she just sort of looked up at me, and she couldn't say anything, obviously, but
Hmm.
I could tell that she was in agreement. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, absolutely horrible. But yeah, we're on trial for aggravated trespass. We've got to fight our corner and say, it was just trespass. There was, Joey had done an incredible job getting undercover footage beforehand, and we had footage of them abusing animals beforehand, and that's what we're going to go to court and say. And
Yeah.
we actually went to court already, and it got delayed another year. So
Oh
it'll be
really?
December this year. Yeah. So the legal
Wow.
system's so chocker at the moment. There's so many cases for different things. So
Yeah.
what it's looking pretty strong in our favour. We'll have to see what the judge says. It's one judge who decides our fate. So,
Yeah.
um,
I mean,
but
there's a
yeah, we'll
whole
see.
documentary about it, that
Hmm.
the jury can see. They'll probably try to keep them from seeing that, I guess, right?
Well,
But
we
yeah.
won't even have a jury. It's
Oh,
magistrate. So it'll just be one judge that will decide in the end after hearing our case. But
gotcha.
um, yeah, I could probably say I won't say names and stuff, but we've got an expert witness that's reviewed the footage. He
Mm,
agrees there was, some rights violations being broken. They don't have anyone, so it's up to the judge to listen and see what he thinks. But a lot of people ask me when I finished it, like, I had a young, Ziggy was maybe like 6 weeks old at the time.
mhm.
I had a wife and a job, and we own a house, and it was like, why would you risk all that? And I was like, well, someone's got to risk it. We can't live in fear of, the ramifications of, what could happen when you see injustices happening to animals. And I know Ziggy will look back. When he's older, he'll I'll show him the footage and the newspaper clippings, and I'll be like, your dad did this, and if you did the same, I'd be proud of you. Um, so I want him to live in a world where people see right, they see the exploitation going on, and they want to say no, like animals aren't here for us to use, and
Yeah.
we've got to make a stand. So yeah, so that's why I did it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing it. And I mean, people often ask that question, and then I like the responses like, what are the ramifications of not doing it? Like
Mm,
turning that around. And also, well, I mean, for one, it's like, if injustice is not met with protest or demonstration, then it just carries on. But then also, just like personally, too, if you knew that you had the opportunity to go do this thing and didn't answer the call, it might eat away at you too, knowing that I could have been there, I could have done something. I'm sure you felt that pull too of like that weight of responsibility. Like I know what's going on. If not me, who else is going to do this? It was that
y-
sort of like the way that you were thinking at the time.
yeah, there was quite a lot that I was like, I think for me, I'm just like I've got to do it. There wasn't even a hesitation. It wasn't like, oh,
Hmm.
hang on a minute, shall I, think about my job, things like that. It was like, no, like this is animals are not here for us to use. They are being gassed to death. We have an opportunity to show people that ordinarily wouldn't know that they're being gassed to death. Um, you know, there are people in my world that wouldn't necessarily see it otherwise, so I want them to see it. Um, and yeah, I didn't really hesitate and think, weigh up options or anything. I was just like, yeah, let's go in, let's do it. And I look back with zero regrets. My family, I didn't tell them, and they were when they found out that I'd been arrested. I think I was still in jail at the time, and they were like, obviously really concerned. Um, but and they were a bit like, some are vegan, and I think it's only my mom that's a vegan, but the rest they aren't. But my dad actually was like, explain to me why you've done this, and I told him, and since then he stopped eating meat.
Wow.
Um, yeah, and I celebrate that win. A lot of people be like, well, he's still drinking milk and whatever, but I'll get there with him on that. Maybe I'll you know occupy a dairy farm. I don't know, but there's he's on that journey now, and he what he saw and he heard as I described it to him, he made that connection for those for those animals, and it'll click one day that they're not here for us. My mom's there.
Mhm.
So yeah, so the impact, even just on my family has been strong, and yeah, I have zero regrets for doing it, and um, yeah, I'd do it if I went back. I'd do the exact same thing. The only thing that
Yeah.
sort of when I got out was it got printed in my local newspaper because it's a thing where if you get arrested and they publicize your address, which I think they shouldn't be able to do, which has caused some slight problems with activism since because people know where I live. But
Really? Wow.
yeah, yeah. So they published my address, and then I was honest with my job at the time. I said, "Look, I've been arrested. This was, it wasn't my intention to be in prison all night or in jail all night. Is there any issues with work?" And they were like, "No, it's fine. There's nothing in a contract about animal rights activism." And I think they reflected on it and were like, if we were to discipline him anyway, we'd look pretty bad
Yeah.
because we
Yeah.
know we deep down know it's the right thing. So yeah, that was fine. So yeah, no regrets, none at all.
Well, and I mean, just with this image alone, like you've described, like transferring the skills from wedding photography over to animal activism. And I mean, talk about, impact and stuff that I think, you know, part of the appeal of some of these images is that they're enduring, like they will last for a long time. So like they could be having impact far beyond the actual event. And maybe we should go through some more of them. We've got 6 here. Let's take a look at the
Mhm.
third one here. Let's take a look at this one here. This is Jamie, right?
Yeah, so this is another species of insulation. This was
Yeah.
fish is not humane. Um, this. It's probably my favorite image I've ever taken, other than Ashley being pregnant. It was just a combination of, there was so many activists involved in this, and you can just see that it so perfectly represents, fish, just this, net wrapped around them. There's so many of them. I think this is the most amount we ever had. It goes beyond the picture, the amount of activists that there were. This is outside the Tate Modern in London, and Jamie, always the professional, we laid her in a way that was reflective of a sort of Renaissance painting. And she just laid there so perfectly, and well done
Mhm.
for everyone. They were just so perfectly still. And then we had this beam of light. The sun just came over the Tate, and it just perfectly just shone down across the middle of Jamie and onto Sarah's in the bottom left, her face, and it was just, with my editing style. I've always tried to create a style that was really unique and create my own presets with wedding. And this is literally just one of my wedding presets that I just clicked on and didn't need to do any sort of editing, maybe a touch of, lowering the exposure or whatever. But it was just perfect right out of the camera pretty much. And yeah, it's one of my favorite images. I got these printed really large and sent them to, a few people that were in the image. And Jamie's got it up in a place in New York.
Yeah,
And yeah, I just think it's really powerful.
it is.
It
It
was
almost
actually, sorry, Garen.
I was gonna say it almost even has like almost like an artificial look to it or something,
Yeah,
which is amazing that it's an actual photograph because the way that it looks, it almost looks like computer generated in a way.
yeah. There was a few people since that have been. I know they've spoke about this image with Jamie on the podcast, and they've been like, "Is this AI?" Like,
Hmm.
and it wasn't. And I've even had a few people accuse my undercover work of being AI, and I don't know what it is. It's just maybe it's almost, it just, it feels so unreal, but it's not. It's literally straight out of the camera, just with my warmer preset on it. So yeah, definitely
Yeah,
not AI. Just some real like badass activists that just lay on a cold floor
yeah.
for a good hour. Yeah,
Wow.
Jane. I've done a lot of photos of Jamie now, and she's just so good to capture. She just gets it. She gets what we're doing. She's cool. She knows. She
Mhm.
goes straight into professional mode and has her own style and stuff. But she just knows what we're trying to capture. So always a absolute pleasure to work with Jamie.
Yeah, Jamie, we're talking about Jamie Logan. And I was just
Yeah.
reacting to a video, what was it, like 3 weeks ago? Actually, you were in the chat, I remember at the time, and it was Jamie Logan who was over there doing another sort of art installation type thing. Um, I think that was the South Stalls, I think, the gestation crate
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
installation.
yeah. It was that was yeah. We did James Steph did a installation inside a gallery, inside, and had a firing crate, and then my wife Ashley was inside the firing crate, and Jamie was there like interviewing people what they thought about it.
Mhm.
And we actually, for a couple of minutes, we put Ziggy on the other side of the firing crate with Ashley inside, and he sort of put his hand on it. As everyone,
Oh, okay.
it's like a real cool shot.
Yeah.
So yeah, so check those out as well. But yeah, so Jamie's done a lot with Steph and myself. Going the past couple of years now, and yeah, always a pleasure to work with and help me capture one of my favorite images.
Yeah.
One of
That's
Steph's installations.
It's pretty awesome. Yeah. You're getting to work with such amazing activists. Like it's so cool. Like, you got this photo of Joey Carbstrong. You're doing investigations with Mel and Steve and Plant Geezer and Chris Hines. It's what a world. I gotta get to the UK, I think is what we need to take away from this. Let's
Yeah,
take a look at
definitely. Like, yeah,
yeah. Let's
yeah.
talk
So
about
this,
this image. Yeah.
yeah, so this was again. So I do something called freelancing, which is a skill I've used in wedding photography. I was taught by a woman called Carla Blaine. She is a wedding photographer, and she actually did our wedding. And she taught me this technique of free lensing, and it's this real like romantic. When you do it with weddings, it's really romantic. You basically take the lens off the camera and then like move it around, and you get these like blurry effect. And when you shoot a wedding, it's really romantic. But when I did it on the farm, there was all these piglets, and this poor one had these scabs all over his face. And I decided to do free lensing for these piglets to really get this almost like this connection, like you feel that they're an individual, that they're there looking at the camera, that there's almost this slight, there's a curiosity to him, and also this sort of desperation because he's got these scabs on his face and he's clearly not well. And with free lensing, because it focuses on one point of the what you're trying to capture, the subject is the word I'm looking for. It really worked well in this image. It captured the eyes
Yeah.
so well. And yeah, so this is an example of how I've used my wedding photography to when I go undercover, because I do take your regular shots to document it, and there are so many incredible photographers that do this work. And what I wanted to do, I know you had Jo-Anne McArthur on, and I've got her books in my office here, and I continuously look through them and I'm inspired by her. She is just so incredible, and she does it in a way that when you see her photo, you're like, that's Jo-Anne McArthur. And what an inspiration to me. When I first started taking photos undercover, it was her work that continues to inspire me, did inspire me. And, I want to continue documenting to a point where people say, that's one of Calvin's photos.
Yeah.
Not to get any praise or glory out of it, just so people can be like, that's his photo. If I see him, maybe I can ask him about it. And yeah, that's this photo. And
Yeah.
yeah, this
Well,
poor
yeah,
poor
talking
little
with
individual.
Jo-Anne was cool because she was able to talk to me about, sort of the different ways that made a photo stand out. And it's interesting hearing you describe this one in kind of the same way. I like how you describe this photo, and I was noting in my head that the way you describe it is kind of exactly the same way that I would have. So obviously the picture captured it. I like that you used the word curiosity because this piglet obviously had some curiosity of like, who's this guy? What's he doing? Um, and yeah, you're right. Like it's framed, like that. The focus is directly on this piglet. You can see that the piglet's not well. Um, it's a beautiful photo and heartbreaking at the same time. Um, and also the piglet's adorable too, despite the
Yeah,
scabbing all over their face. But yeah, I love
yeah,
how you've transferred your skills from wedding photography into animal photography.
yeah. One thing I've done a couple of talks on this, and I always encourage people, whatever skill you've got, just use it. Just start using it for the animals. And even if you're just really good at filing paperwork, then
Yeah,
join a group that needs someone to file their paperwork. If you're really good, there are so many great photographers that just like, well, I've never been undercover. Just do it. Just go walk on a farm
yeah.
and start taking photos. And I've seen some actually that have started doing more photojournalism stuff, and their work is just incredible now. And whatever skill you've got, even if lights gone.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, just gone.
Haunted
If
back
you, yeah, it's a ghost in me, turning off my lights. Um, if whatever it is, if you can play an instrument, start writing animal activist songs. Just use your
right,
skill.
right.
And yeah, that's what I decided to do. So
Yeah, I also, Gary Yourofsky, who I'd had on recently, also shared this sentiment that I really like, which is just sort of do things and then analyze them after, instead of
mhm.
like over analyzing things beforehand, just go out and do it. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I think if you overanalyze it, you kind of never going to do it. I'm guilty of that myself. Like videography isn't my skill, but I do some videography, And I think for me, I'm always trying to create this sort of perfect cinematic video. And I shouldn't be worried about that. I should just get it out there no matter what it looks like, and just, get it, just upload it. And that's what I'd encourage people to do. Even, don't try and create a masterpiece. Just go onto a farm, go into a slaughterhouse if you can. Just start photographing, filming, just to get it out there, just so people can see it. And you'll build up your skills along the way. You
Yeah.
know, I you can go back and reflect and be like, oh, I'll do this differently, when I go
Hmm.
in and film next time. And so just learn on the job and just start doing it. Don't be afraid to do it.
Yeah. And I mean, and then you can go back and look at some of these incredible images that you've captured and be like, okay, that's what made this one work. Um,
Yeah,
I don't remember what the fifth one is, so let's bring it up here. Let me see what that is here. I do remember the sixth one, by the way. That's gonna oh, this one,
yeah,
yeah. I
yeah,
remember this image that you guys discussed this on the podcast. Um, so this is the one that you did with Colin, right?
yeah. So this was with Mel, Steve, Colin, and Chris. This was like the second shed we went into. The first one was horrific, and you'll see that image in a minute, which, trigger warning, it's really bad.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, it's
this
gruesome.
one was just absolutely heartbreaking. The mother's in a farrowing crate, just there was all these piglets, and they were trying to suckle and stuff, and there was just this one that was just nose to nose, was just there for ages. I had so much time to take this image, and absolutely heartbreaking. That all she wants, as a parent, like, you're the your little one's world. Like, they rely on you for safety, for comfort, for everything. And to deny that of a mother, by shoving her in a crate that she can't even turn around in, it's just absolute. It's just, what are we doing? It's awful. And I've spoke to people about this since, and they try and justify it by saying, well, normally the mother could crush the piglets, and this is actually helping. This isn't helping anything. This is torture.
Yeah.
um and yeah, this poor piglet, nose to nose, like this is a mother, and a child. We're denying them the connection that they would have, in the wild. And it's just awful.
You
um
know, it occurs to me that when you were describing the Farrowing Crate art installation that your wife got in, that y- you and she and your son essentially recreated this.
Yeah. Well, this was after. So, but yeah, this is the exact same thing.
Yeah.
If you put those photos side by side, the only difference is it's a human hand instead of a nose, and it's exactly the same.
Yeah.
They would have the exact. Pigs are intelligent. They would have the exact same emotion as, my wife and Ziggy on the other side of these bars. And Ziggy would probably be wondering, why are you in that cage? Um, and let's have a connection as this mother and child. And yeah, so again, I used the same sort of skills in photography as a wedding. It's, got my preset on it, the same one that had, I used for Jamie Logan's installation. So, people might recognize this as one of mine. But
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely heartbreaking. And you just want to, when I leave these places, all I want to do is go back in and, there's like a bit of an ALF inside me where I just want to go back in and destroy the place and let them all go. But, that's
Hmm.
not, it's sad, because unless you've got a plan, you can't just take them, you can't rescue them. There's got to be a plan in place where you are there to liberate. And I know people that have done that. I might possibly do that one day. But there's got to be a plan in place. And if you're there, if your plan is to go in and document, that's what you've got to go there and do, which is
Yeah.
sad, but that's unfortunately the way it
Well,
is.
you know, I have to say this is one of the most powerful images that I've seen. This one right here is a masterpiece in my view. It's funny we were talking about Jo-Anne McArthur too, because you mentioned how she has like a style. Like if I didn't know any, if you had just shown me this, I would have been like, oh yeah, that's from the We Animals website for sure. It's like
Yeah.
it's one of those enduring images. Um, but speaking of Jo-Anne too, like she was talking to me about, and I'm not a photographer. She was saying like, yeah, it's like one of her favorite things to do is like go through photographs and sort of discuss them with other photographers. You guys should totally do that, by the way. I don't know
Yeah,
if you
oh, I'd
have.
love to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've not, but yeah, it would be an absolute
Yeah, you should
honor.
honestly, you should submit this, to her. I don't know how it works. I don't know how the We Animals thing works, but, to get this more, widespread attention. So it's just it's like a beautiful and, like, also heartbreaking image at the same time, but, I mean, beautiful in the ways that, these animals look so beautiful the ph the photograph, like, the photograph, I don't know my tech stuff, but it just looks so beautifully shot, and, it's just so sad to see this connection between, child and mother in this way, piglet and mother, um,
Mm,
but well done. That it's an
yeah, thank you.
incredible image. Yeah,
Yeah,
well, let's show the last one, and I do want yeah,
yeah,
like Calvin said, trigger warning, this one is really brutal, so it's it's gruesome, but let's take a look at it, and I won't keep it up on the screen for too long, but let's show it.
yeah,
So if you're prone to, upsetting images will throw you off all day, just close your eyes, I suppose. So yeah, um,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, this was the farm that we went to with Mel and Steve. Probably the most horrific thing. This is certainly the most horrific thing I've ever seen in my life. And this was a piglet that was laying next to the mother and the siblings, and I don't know how long this piglet had been there, but you know, and probably been cannibalized. So I imagine, but there was also, as soon as we walked in, I mean, you can remove it if you want, if people start talking about it. You've seen it, but
yeah,
this piglet was, well, as soon as we walked into the room, rats ran everywhere. There was hundreds of rats in that building, and they were eating out of the pig's food. They were most likely they could have been eating this piglet, but they just ran everywhere. And even from like a the health standpoint, like rats are eating the piglet's food, the pig's food, the pigs are eating the food, the pigs get killed. It's there's some. It was just disgusting, and yeah, it was like a scene from Saw. It's the only way I can describe it, like relate it to something, low ceiling, cobwebs everywhere, filth everywhere, just a bit of newspaper chucked in, which was completely pointless. Like, no straw or anything like that. Not that that would have made it any better, but just some newspaper, which is what the piglet's lying on, and just left to
yeah,
die and been there a while. So, and the farmers would have come in and seen these piglets and just I, I cannot understand the mentality of just leaving, these piglets left to rot like that and just walk out and next to their siblings and stuff. And I've shared that image a lot on my social media, and
mhm,
it is shocking and it's grotesque, but it is the reason why I share it a lot is because this is the reality of what we're doing. And people say buy local, buy local. This was a local farm. This wasn't a super massive industrial, which everyone says, oh, we should ban factory farming. This was a local farm.
mhm,
Um,
mhm,
what does local mean anyway? But yeah, this was a small farm, and it's just you could be that's someone's that's someone's child that you just
yeah,
left next to them. So yeah, certainly the worst thing I've ever seen, and really shocked us. And something that just it really like it angers me, and that
yeah.
fire, but it makes it burn.
Did you say that this is the same facility as the one from the last image that we saw?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
different room. So
mm,
yeah, those would have had they had really like newborn piglets. That's what that room there with the dead piglet. That is where they give birth. So that
mhm,
probably would not been too long, maybe a couple of days or something after giving birth. And there were dead piglets everywhere, and
yeah,
um, so then they would have been moved in when a slightly bigger into another room. still kept in farrowing crates. And it was really sad. I know Steve was really moved by, there was a mother that was about to give birth any second.
Mm,
Um, when we went in with Jamie, actually, there was piglets that had just been born, like minutes. Um, and we held them, and some were dying in our hands because they were just there was no care for them. We tried to put them by their mother to try and suckle, but some were just so weak they couldn't get there. And yeah, going in, it's like another world. It's just hidden. It's so hidden from these, from the public, and that's why I share it. And I've got quite a lot of non-vegans friends or people that followed me before I went vegan and have seen
mhm.
that me become an activist. So it's for them that I share it, and for the animals, so people are
Yeah.
educated on what's actually going on. But
Well, I mean, it also occurs to me like if someone was to see like the last image, they might say, "Oh, well, uh, it's sad, but it doesn't look that bad." And then all you had to do was go one room over. And I hear this from a lot of investigators, and people will say, a lot of the worst stuff is stuff that we haven't shown you, or stuff that is left on the cutting room floor. It's like too brutal. Um, that one's obviously extremely brutal, but it just goes to show, looking at one image, you sometimes you don't get the full picture of like what that facility is like. Uh,
yeah,
so, and you said there were dead piglets everywhere on that place, and yeah, I hope that gets through to some people. I hope so. I'm glad you're sharing that image out. I wonder, when you share an image like that on social media, does it get you shadow banned? Like, it must be difficult because it's so grotesque.
yeah. I've never been shadow banned, actually, and I've shared
Nice.
it a few times. I don't think people would report it.
Yeah.
Really, it's not on my main feed. I only ever share that one in my stories, um,
Hmm.
because the possibility of getting shadow banned. But so yeah, I'll
Mm.
just throw that up on a story on a Sunday morning when someone's about to have a bacon sandwich, just so like they open it and they'll be like, "Damn, I don't feel like eating that anymore." So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I've had some backlash. I've lost some friends along the way. Like, I don't want to see that on a morning when I'm about to eat or whatever, and I'm just like, well, don't eat it then.
Yeah. Well, they saw it anyway. I've
Yeah,
definitely lost some friends too, like the things that I share. I used to share like every kind of like brutal Dominion like video on my page, and I've definitely had people like block me on social media, but in my mind, they've already seen it. They've still
yeah,
seen it. So even if they block me
yeah,
now, they can't unsee
yeah.
it.
What I always say to people as well is, like, you know, every vegan activist I've spoken to has struggled with friends, family. Some have like estranged from their family; they don't talk to them anymore. Some have definitely lost friends. Me and Ash lost a fair few friends,
Mhm.
um, and but since becoming activists, we have got so many more friends. We have friends all over the world now. We
Yeah.
could go over to New York, hang with Jamie. We can go to Australia, hang with Tash, Jack. We could go to Europe and all over the UK. Certainly, we've got friends. We've got a whole like Cambridge crew, Norfolk crew, London. We're going up to Edinburgh soon, and there was someone who gave us a room to stay. So
Yeah.
if you want to make friends, certainly get active, and you have that. You then have that the very core of you, which is animal rights. You have someone who you can connect with on that level.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be
Yeah.
my encouragement.
Same thing. Like, I mean, activists can become like your second family. And like you said, wherever you are in the world, even if you don't like, so I went to Korea one time, didn't know any activists there, but hooked up with them through their local Save chapter. And then I would still call them friends to this day, even though I had one experience with them. So yeah, then you've got like people who in like Korea who like take care of you for a day, which is really cool. So yeah, you have like a network of friends and family, and you have this one thing that binds you together, and that's that you have this concern for animals. Um, How do you like when you've seen like such upsetting images like that, and seen the reality of it up close, smelled it, felt it, how do you take care of yourself, take care of your mental health? It seems like you've got a thick skin, like you obviously you'd have to be able to do this, but what are the things that kind of ground you, bring you back, and keep you optimistic about life and humanity if you are?
Yeah. Oh, there's times where you just that first place we went into, I was just like, you certainly lose hope in humanity. You're like, what are
Yeah,
we
yeah,
doing? Like, and as a as a vegan activist, it's like, how the heck are we going to change this?
yeah.
Um, and then yeah, I always just have this fire, so I can keep going. I actually work now for Peter. I'm a social media officer for them,
Nice.
so I see this stuff daily now. I'm always editing this sort of thing. So I kind of have got used to it now. And yeah, thick skin has helped. I will, me and my wife, we will always find time to socialize as much as we can. Um, yeah, just do the normal thing, watch some films, watch TV. We've got a great, like I said, we've got some great friends that are activists. Shout out to
Mhm.
Juliana. She hosts the most amazing parties where we all can get together and enjoy food and friendship. And just a lot of support groups. So, I got a few WhatsApp chats, and I was actually at the running of the bulls earlier in the year,
Oh, wow.
filming for Peter in Pamplona, and there was a moment where I was sat in this bull ring waiting for the bulls to run in,
Mhm.
and watching the bull run on screen, and bulls were slipping and crashing into walls and stuff. And I text this group and I just said, I am so, like, I was on the verge of tears, and I was just like, I need you guys right now. Like, I'm despairing right now, because there was just this arena full of people just cheering for blood, basically. And
Mhm.
I just thought, what kind of a world is this? And they sent me so many strong, positive messages about, like, you got this. We were all in this together. Stay strong. And all these messages helped and got me through it. And I was like, yeah, right, let's do this. Let's film. Let's while you're here, you're going to expose what's going on to others. So yeah, having those support groups really like helped. But yeah, socializing with them is just
Mhm.
um, is a real like good way of a lot of people do yoga, working out. I've never been like a I do work out now and then when I want to get into shape. But I did a bit of yoga in lockdown. But for me, it's just, yeah, having a good friendship group. I like to read and just do all the normal things. So I make sure I
Yeah.
have time for those things, spending time with my family, and
Yeah.
watching. Zeke, having a toddler who's now starting to talk and stuff. Yeah, he'll light up a room. Loads of the activists know him because they've seen him grow up. Because I met all the activists when he was just born, so they've
Yeah.
sort of grown up with him. So you know
Yeah.
they get excited to see him. So yeah, just spending time with them as a family is just
And I mean,
grounds us.
activist kids, they're like little rock stars, aren't they? Like you
Yeah, yeah,
remember the like 5-year-old or 10-year-old that you did activism with.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
just
They don't have that same like fear or social anxiety that adults have either. Like most of the kids that I've seen doing activism, you put a microphone in front of their face and they start going off.
yeah, yeah. As soon as he can talk properly, we'll get him a little megaphone, and he can shout on
Yeah.
that. And as soon as he's old enough to crawl through a space I can't to open the farm door, we'll.
Yeah. That'd be awesome. Yeah, you can get there. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Well, I have so much gratitude for you, Calvin. You sound awesome. I feel like our movement's in good hands. Like we've got some great people doing the work. Um, yeah, and I know, um, I know that you have the vegan multitaskers on YouTube. So is that one of the place where you'd like people to follow you? Because I know you're trying to get on the do the project live stream, right, with Mel and Steve.
yeah. I should be able to do that this coming month. It's on the 26th. So yeah,
Yeah.
go follow Vegan Multitaskers. We've got we've got an Instagram page again, vegan multitaskers. Obviously, there's three of us, so we're multi. Our surname's Tasker, so it seems
Yeah, yeah.
to fit. But yeah, we started that page as a family to really show that you can be active as a family. That's what it's there for. It's to encourage people, if you've got a child or whatever, to be active. Sometimes
Mhm,
people message us if they've got questions about, vegan food for kids, all that sort of stuff. How do we handle those things? So yeah, a lot of people message us through that. My photography, Calvin JT on Instagram is where I'm most active. That's obviously got a lot of my undercover work and photography,
mhm,
and just personal stuff. It's not an activist page. Well, it is, but it's also my personal page, so I share a lot of my
mhm,
day to day stuff on there. So if you want to follow there, you can. But yeah, I've been so lucky to meet so many good activists, and just
mhm,
I've just connected with them you know in such a good way, and they continue to inspire me. From the people that I haven't met, like Jo-Anne McArthur, to people that I speak to daily, like Mel and Steve and Chris, and um, they. I'm just honoured that they have took me in and they continue to invite me, and
mhm.
it's to do activism alongside them is always an honour, and you know, seeing what I see always fires me up. So, I want,
Well,
uh, yeah, the core. I want these industries to burn to the ground. That is my thing. I want to see them no longer existing. I
mhm,
long for the day that we no longer exploit animals and that we just these places get knocked down to rubble. Um,
mhm.
that's my dream.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I can see why you're part of this crew. Like for one, you're very talented and you have the willingness and you've got the balls to go in and do it. And unfortunately that's not everybody, right? So I'm glad that you're setting a great example though and showing people what can be done and using your skills. I love that you're transferring your skills from this industry to this industry, like the wedding photography into doing the animal activism. It's amazing. And yeah, I've only been I've only been in the movement for like 7 years, but I've seen you pop up like quite a bit, like in the pages that I follow, whether it's like Mel and Steve or Joey or like Plant Geezer now too, even. And so you're doing a ton, and it's amazing. It's amazing to see. I'm glad you have that kind of energy and that you're staying at it. So hats off to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, and I love what you do as well. Like, yeah, getting everyone on your channel. Like, you have so many people on your channel that just incredible activists for the movement, and so many different people doing different things. And it's amazing to see the scope of what people are doing. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, keep up the good work yourself.
Appreciate you. Well, I'll put all those links down below, and Calvin, you're always welcome back on this channel if there's ever anything that you want to promote. I know it's a small channel right now. Hopefully, it'll grow. But if there's anything you're like, yeah, I want to get some eyes on this, just let me know, and we'll come back and do a part two. And my hope is that the tech held up while I've been talking to Calvin. Just so y'all know, while I've been talking to Calvin. Um, it's been the audio's been cutting out constantly, so we've been trying to do it. We think that the individual recordings captured everything, but I'd love to do another interview at some point when I can actually understand what you're saying.
Yeah, no
But I
worries.
I think I got the
Yeah,
gist of it though. Yeah.
cool, cool.
Yeah. All right. Take care, Calvin. Appreciate you.
Thanks so much, Jeremy. All the best.